2010, like I said, I went over to the western part of the country, and this part of the country is very, very, very rural. Now, when I talk very rural, has anyone been to the top of Caledonia Mountain? That's not rural. So this Sacco is located in what they call the absolute remotest area of Uganda. And here's the view from the main street. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that there are power lines in this picture. Well, the power lines are making their way to this community. But even once they get there, there's no grid to connect into. So, but they're hopeful for the future. So we're going into this very remote place, high in the mountains. And here's some of the traveling we did. Now we were very excited this day because we were told we only had 40 miles to get from our base point to this spot. 2.5 hours later, I was still wondering, are we going to get there? Because these are the roads. This was actually a good part of the road. You were kind of teetering, tottering on those mountains to get up to this area. So you can imagine that if there's farmers in this area, or if there's anyone who needs to do any business or healthcare or anything as such, imagine how are they going to get in and out in a reasonable amount of time. Well, as we approached the small community, this is what we saw kind of all over the place. There was these women out in these fields that looked awful barren to me. And literally she had a stick with a rock tied to the end of her stick. And what she's doing is she's trying to prepare her land for harvest.
What is she harvesting?
Well, she's actually trying to prepare it so she can plant it, first of all. But she was there all by herself. And I wondered, well, where's, her husband? Where's the men? Where's someone helping her? And we thought, with that task ahead of her, how is she ever going to get it to something that can prosper? Then we get a little closer to town. And here's what we saw. A full banana plantation. And apparently this is something that this group had been able to accomplish. So I'm going to introduce you to a town hall meeting that we attended. So this is actually us in this tiny, tiny little hall. And picture yourself on the top of a mountain, much like what you saw in the first picture, and this tiny one-room building. And then all you can see is these tiny little paths in the lush vegetation, just coming every which way to this center of town. And as we got there, all of a sudden we'd see 2 or 3 people come up the path. Then you'd see 4 or 5 come another way. And then before we knew it, this thing was packed to the rafters. People were outside peering in the windows, the whole 9 yards. We didn't really know what to expect. But what it was is we were there to meet a group of farmers. And the farmers were there to tell us their story of how they began. And the way they did begin, there was a group of 4 women who defied their husbands. Their husbands didn't want to have anything to do with the Saccos. They believed it was just someone trying to take their money, that it wasn't a good thing. So these women would gather together and collectively they'd stock away, a penny or 2 at a time. And what they were trying to do, they were trying to save enough money to be able to join the local Sacco. When they finally did get enough money, then what they did is they qualified for their very first loan. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to have someone help them to learn how to clear their land and grow a banana tree properly so it would produce. So once these 4 women got together, then 4 more joined. And it's kind of like that hair commercial. And they told 2 friends.
VO5.
They told 2 friends. I don't remember. Do you remember what?
VO5.
VO5. Isn't that great? So yeah, so that's what happened. But what is amazing about this is these women all eventually brought around the men. So now you'll see here, there's not very many women left in this picture because they've all gone back to do some work. But what they've done through the Sacco is they have pooled their resources. And as a community that is so remote, they take out one loan and they help one member of the group. It might be to start a poultry farm, it might be to set school fees to send their daughters to school, not just their sons, or in the case of what they told us, mostly banana plantations, because in this area banana plantations grows lushly. So they pool their resources, they help one farmer, they get that person's land going, they pay off the loan, then it's the next person's turn. So this community is prospering, all because 4 women defied their husband. Big thing that they want to do is they're trying to find trade routes for their product. And you'll see here, this is currently how they're getting their bananas to market. Someone will come along with their bicycle, and those are huge bananas. They are hanging, that one there, I think they have about 6 bundles of bananas on that bicycle. And it's one person pedaling it. But what happens is when they come to a hill such as this, and we did encounter this, all of a sudden, out of the ditches and everywhere, these little children will come. And they'll say, basically it's the same as what our children would say, 10 cents and I'll push you up the hill. And that's how the little children are making a little bit of money as well. So, but they are trying to now work with their SACO to figure out distribution routes. How can they improve their roads into their community to bring in a truck to get the bananas out? Because you can imagine doing this every day would be just quite something. So that's 2 glimpses into my journey. And honestly, I could talk forever about this. I wanted to give you an appreciation for what some of these women are going through in these countries. And when I hear what your group is all about, it really gives me, it warms me to know that we're doing it here in our own community. And I know that some of you are small business owners or aspiring business owners, and if we look at what some of these women are doing and the adversity that they're overcoming each and every day, I think we all can agree that the little bit of strife that we may have in achieving what we're looking for, it doesn't measure at all. So don't give up on what you're trying to do, and think about these fantastic women as you go about your day. So thank you for allowing me to share my stories.